Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace.
Cut, man, it's cut. Cut.
Oh, okay.
Professional shit, man.
Check, check, 1, 2. What's up, guys? Lou here. We're in Anaheim. This ain't my video.
It's 11 o'clock. I got David.
What's up?
Phone Buff, the Phone Buff. Mr. Unbox Therapy. Austin Evans.
Yo.
And the Mac Mixing.
Just the
Yeah.
It's not the Austin Evans. Though.
Dom.
I get the Austin Evans?
You can have whatever you want.
The one and only.
The one and only. Okay.
We're talking Google I/O 2014. I figured he's actually got Android L on his Nexus right now.
I do.
It's
He was
impressive.
at the event. He has the LG G Watch. Dom writes for 9 to 5 Google. So he's got that. And yeah,
I'm a
That's all I
person
got.
who is here on this couch. So.
He's putting GPUs all over the wall.
and faces.
And
Oh,
faces.
take it easy.
And we're gonna break it down to kind of 5 of the coolest things that happened at Google I/O. So we'll kick it off. What do you think's the most important?
Well, Android L. You know, that's my number one. I think it's a big deal. It's the biggest design overhaul since Ice Cream Sandwich, and it looks really, really nice. And not only that, it goes across all devices. So basically, whenever you're in the Google ecosystem, you're gonna have that material design.
Check it out. Real quick. What does L stand for? What are our guesses here?
Well,
Lollipop.
it would have been like Lollipop or whatever.
Lemonheads. I think Lemonheads.
Lemonheads is good.
I think Lemonheads. Another brand deal. Makes sense.
But,
Kit Kat,
but in the
Lemonheads.
past, when they announced the developer version, have they ever come out before and only put a
They
letter?
haven't really done
never
this.
done it.
No, I think that's because the brand deal isn't complete yet, and they couldn't say it.
I'm not sure about that.
Kit Kat happened at the last moment.
Fine, but they still never said the next version's going to be K.
So you think it's just gonna roll with an L?
No, I'm not saying that either. It could be anything.
It's just a name. I don't know. It's a developer edition. That's new. They've never really
But
done that.
Apple's
They've
not
always
like
just
iOS.
Let's talk about that actually. The
Yeah.
fact that it's a developer preview, and this is actually new, and what it's gonna probably have, or what it's probably gonna do is, developers are gonna be able to see what Android L is all about, and that way when it does become official and it rolls out to devices, the manufacturers aren't gonna be behind. So it's probably gonna speed up the update process. You know, we're gonna see updates a lot faster, and it may, reduce the F word, the fragmentation. It may actually-
easy.
So,
Got that.
so how much of this L do you see moving onto skin devices, Galaxy devices, etc.?
Well, very low.
As far as the UI goes,
Yeah.
I think just as much as Ice Cream Sandwich, honestly. I mean,
Right.
in other words, I don't think TouchWiz or Sense, they're not going to change the way it looks.
They're not gonna
Hopefully
roll
they do
it.
though. I mean, that was the goal with the material design.
You're
Let's
going
have
to
to wait
incorporate
and
some
see.
of it.
Well,
I mean, it's
and-
clearly going to be skinned on top of it, and a lot of the cool stuff is going to disappear.
And recently, I mean, there was rumors that Google sold Motorola so Samsung would back down on TouchWiz.
Well,
I
it
mean,
was
you
more
guys
than
have
that.
heard
It was
that,
more
right?
than that.
Yeah,
I know
I've
it's
heard
more
that.
than
Because they
that.
would continue using Android.
I know it's deeper.
Now they're making the Gear Live watch. No, that's not what I'm wearing right now, but I have
It
it.
runs Android.
Which runs essentially a stock version of Google software. As far as I can tell, it's completely unadulterated. So
Yeah.
could that be a sign that maybe we'll see, in conjunction with TouchWiz devices, stock devices from Samsung?
Like a silver
in your
Android
pocket?
silver?
Yeah, maybe.
Are they giving is Samsung giving their watch the Galaxy name, or is it just?
It's
No.
just gear. No
they
gas.
just-
But on the box, you saw what I talked about in my video. On the box, it said only for Galaxy devices, or it implied you need a Galaxy device to use it. Turns out, a bit of a lie.
Note 3 came out with the Galaxy Gear. Then you had the Gear 2, the Gear Fit, the Gear 2 Neo, and now
In Android,
That's bonkers.
it's five.
and it's three-
No, you know how many tablets they've released since January?
and that's 3 operating
like
systems.
10.
That's 3 operating systems.
The fact that you're the only one here who cares shows you how much that matters.
That's no. Okay. Hey.
No.
Hey,
No, I'm not
hey.
trying to be an asshole about it. I'm just saying that it's pretty obvious that they're putting
That's
too
ridiculous.
much on the market.
No, I'm saying that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's what it is, though. It's like, let's throw as much as we can and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's not even very much
But it's worked
iteration
out.
happening.
No, there's
It's worked out
not.
before.
There's nothing different.
It's worked
Exactly.
out for them before. Look at the Note. The Note was absolutely the first major big phone. That was literally them just like testing something. All of a sudden it became a big deal.
Testing is
But
good as long as
testing
there's
10
development
things?
and iteration, but launching 10
You
tablets
don't
that
call 5 new watches in like
Iteration?
less than a year? Yeah, that's absolutely moving things forward.
No, not if you're not changing anything about them.
Well, they changed
of course
the
changed
gear,
it.
the original gear to the
Very
gear
minor
2.
sliver type
Very
thing.
less than a year.
Well, but that's not my point. I'm saying iteration and development comes through new features, essential features.
Okay.
So constantly pushing for a new piece of hardware that has a tiny little change is taking resources away from
Well, we were
potentially
just talking
real
about this
innovation.
earlier,
Okay.
the fact that they both do the same thing functionality-wise, but their design makes them different, and the
You're talking about for Android Wear?
Yes.
Yeah.
and the services that will be on them will make them different because different developers. This actually gives, since they have the same software, this gives developers the opportunity to make it interesting.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, definitely. And
Yeah.
developers are going to care more because there's now a platform
It's
more
their
devices.
thing.
that could potentially hit critical mass and be worth developing for.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that having one OS for your wrist is going to be beneficial for the community, for consumers in
Yeah,
general. Definitely.
They don't have to tinker with 5 different, variations of things
No.
to make something work.
It's a disaster.
I think that kind of segues us into the second thing that I feel is most important. And that was kind of not really the announcement of Android Wear, but it kind of made it official. Now we have legitimacy. It's
Right.
real. It's a thing.
They're actual devices.
We know the
Right.
Motorola 360 is coming. The Moto 360
Sure.
is coming out.
Uh-huh.
So I think you're the man.
Yeah, well, I have both of those, and I tried both of the watches you mentioned that are available now.
LG and Samsung.
Are available to us. You can pre-order them.
I think they're shipping.
Coming very, very soon. So
Yeah.
the G Watch is on my wrist right now. Also have the Samsung Gear Live. So sick of these naming conventions.
Yeah.
Gear Live. What does that make the other Samsung watches? Gear Dead. Gear Later. Gear Live. What are we talking about here? Undermines the other product. Plus LGG. I'm sick of LGG. Anything.
Every product is
LGG this, LGG that. That's not flowing off the tongue. I know you probably don't want to
LGG
hear about this stuff
LGG
specifically,
Pro 2.
I want to hear about this.
but this stuff affects the overall user experience, in my opinion. Not being fresh, not being clean.
Well, it's like they want to brand it like Galaxy. It's not just the Galaxy S line. It's Galaxy this, Galaxy that.
Samsung Galaxy
Bizarre.
S4 Mini.
Yeah. It's
Bizarre.
like,
Anyways, I know they're going to get upset if I rant too hard on that.
Okay, so how's actually using
because they
the
care about the
G-Watch?
device. So
G name aside.
the G Watch, has been a more pleasurable experience than the Samsung experience because of the way that it charges. And I feel like I've talked about this before, but the charging dock on this device is far superior to the Samsung solution and any Samsung Watch solution up until this point.
Yeah.
This seems like a very simple way to go. Use a magnet. It's almost like the MagSafe on the MacBook. It's like once you use it, it's like this should have been this
Why,
way forever.
why haven't
I
why
haven't
doesn't
really
anyone put
looked
out
at
that?
the Samsung. Is it the same kind of thing where you have to attach it?
Yeah, it's a clip-on.
It's a clip-on, and it's like a tension fit, and it requires force, and you have to, and it requires force to take it off,
You can't really do it at
It's
night.
begging to lose it though.
and that too.
I
That
swear,
too.
I think they just came up with this like 2 weeks ago, and they were like,
feels like it.
running it in
It feels like
production.
it.
It
You
could,
know?
it could be.
But
It
how
could
is
be.
actually like Android on it? Like, is it helpful?
How is
it
Android
what do you
Wear?
think?
I still think we haven't hit that point, that major value proposition of computing on your wrist yet. We're not there. I see, like for example, Google Glass, no one talking about it at I/O. Last year, all about Google Glass. I think that Google realizes that right now we're not ready for that kind of computing, and this is sort of an interim step. What this is all about is preemptive computing. It's about the phone, the device, knowing what you want to do before you know you want to do it. So it can be less disruptive to your life and require less input from you. And so I think it's a good step, but as far as day-to-day, there's just not enough stuff that it does that your phone doesn't do yet. Granted, at $200, you could go out and spend that on a watch that doesn't do anything but tell the time.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, if it's really easy to charge, it's lightweight and comfortable to wear, it's water resistant, dust resistant, etc. All of a sudden, there are other aspects or elements as a watch that start to make it look really cool at $200. And then if it can do any preemptive computing for you, to me, that's valuable. So we're not at the maximum proposition yet, but we're getting there.
Now, do you feel yourself needing to reach for your phone less?
At the conference, at the keynote, they said
Yeah, that was one of the things. Right?
they said that 70% of what you do on your phone, of a notification that comes through to your phone, could be dealt with on your watch. Problem is, I'm a power user to begin with, so guess what I'm always on?
Yeah.
My phone. I'm always on my phone. So it's pretty hard when you're a content producer and you're tweeting and you're messaging and you're responding to emails, etc. From a production perspective, your mobile device is often in your hands and not your pocket.
Sure.
But for the average person who's more of a content consumer, I could see that they could get probably closer to that ratio.
But at the same time, I feel like, and this is the Gear 2, I feel like it's most helpful when I'm on the go.
Walking.
Like when I'm like moving, doing stuff, going places. It's very
What is
helpful.
that movement you were just doing right there?
Just a little on the go dance, I don't know. But yeah, it's very helpful. I mean, you even saw the benefit of this when
for sure.
We're having
sitting
dinner,
there, yeah.
and we're in
Right.
a group message, and we're both getting the messages, and he was getting to him so much faster, so much easier. I had to reach down.
I
to
just
my
went like
pocket.
this, and I was like, oh.
I stopped, and I was asking him, "Oh, tell me what they said," because I didn't want to have to go, while I'm eating dinner.
Yeah.
So it's really
There's 100% something there.
There are times
I
for
think most of us would agree though that it's not this major huge
Oh, no. Not
development
there yet.
that people want wearables to be. I mean, everybody wants to talk about wearables. Everybody wants to throw venture money at it. And yet it's still this thing that just sort of slightly improves these fringe situations.
Yeah, but I mean, at $200, I think the price
That's the
point
key.
is
That's the
it's-
key.
If we're like 400,
That's the key.
That's the problem that
200 is a good price.
I don't want to bring up fanboy wars, but I think that's a problem that a lot of people are having with the thought of an iWatch costing $300 to $400.
Right. But I will say
For doing probably the same
But
thing.
I will say that when you get into that realm of fashion, I've talked about this before. When you get into that realm of fashion, all
You're
of a sudden
paying for the brand.
value proposition changes. Like I looked at the Motorola watch, the 360, and immediately said, "This is the one for me." Right? It's not on my wrist right now because I won't be getting it till the end of the summer because everyone who went to I/O is going to get one. So you probably want to subscribe to Unbox Therapy so that you see that video first. That's just a smart move.
Yeah.
Anyway, but everybody who looked at it immediately said this is the watch for them. The screen, this is something I want to talk about. The screen on the 360, it almost looks like it's laminated to the glass. It is so much more clear and less reflective than the other two devices. You wonder what the technology they're using to achieve that is. And again, this is tough to portray through video, so if you've watched videos on the 360, you may not have fully absorbed this. But in the convention center, everybody who walked up was like, what is this screen? It almost looks like the video portion is on top of the glass in a way. Yeah. Very strange.
it looks. I mean, even on video, I've seen it.
Even
it
on
looks,
video.
it looks very different.
And for me, that's exciting because I'm like, can they do this with a phone? Because if that makes its way into phones, that's really exciting.
But Motorola has the appeal, the upper hand for sure right now, as far as appeal goes. Mass appeal.
Exactly. And so if that device is $100
I would
more,
pay more for it just on
I
that watch.
would too.
Oh, absolutely.
I would too.
I would pay $329 for that watch.
So that's but so this illustrates
$229.
but that illustrates the benefit of having a universal platform. Is there can be something for everyone.
Yeah.
So if you've got a slightly nicer device that is going to cost a little bit more, the argument isn't for the platform as a whole, but instead that you pick which one is suitable for your particular style. Now, granted, you can spice this one up a little bit by putting a leather band on it, making it look a little bit more premium. So that's sort of a half step.
that's what I did.
If you don't want to go all the way. So there are options. Main thing is platform, being non-specific, universal. That's the main takeaway for me.
Lamar Wilson brought up an interesting point where had Moto 360 been announced for sale day one with these,
Yes.
would anybody buy them? No.
I think there's always going to be people looking for the lowest point.
It would absolutely-
from a price
It would
perspective.
crush it or
It
significantly.
would crush it. Absolutely. Why would you want anything else? You were just saying yourself that everyone wants the 360.
The problem is,
Moto,
though,
I talked to
is
the
that's-
people,
That one's not the lowest price. That one's $229.
but it's super close.
I mean,
enough.
people
super-
complain over $29.
But I talked to the people at Motorola, and they straight up said they had no intention of rushing that device. They essentially said to me that these devices were rushed. From a design perspective, they slapped them together.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I mean it's a box. I mean, how creative is this device?
It's a pebble steel.
Yeah, from a design
Can we just call it
perspective,
that? Yeah.
these are form factors that have been achieved before.
Absolutely.
The Motorola device is far more ambitious.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
so they straight up said they don't want to rush it. And so they're going to have to recognize their successes at a later date than these other companies.
But
so
it's a win for them. They're going to win.
they're going to win. They won I/O.
Yeah.
The Motorola 360 won I/O
Without even having
having a product. They're also going to do something interesting with charging. I'm sure of it,
But
because they
they've-
had the backs covered and they had specific rules with what we could show regarding the back of the device.
They've been winning since
Yeah.
March. When
Yes.
that watch was announced in March, and they've been winning since then.
Might be like wireless charging or something.
That's what I
There's
heard
something
the rumors
interesting
are.
happening with charging. Some of the devices that the representatives were wearing, they take them off, but then say no photos, no video of the back.
Wow. Then that's obviously there's something there.
Also, the band, all the bands, or the two versions for the band, genuine leather, like it's on another level. It's going to be over $3. I mean, it might be $4.
But most people
It
buy
might be $400.
So anyone want to quickly guess the price?
I'm gonna say
I re-
350.
I really hope they can do
I'd
350.
say 349.
I'm gonna say there might be a couple versions, maybe like one with like a normal band, maybe like one with leather, maybe like $300-$400, something like that.
Yeah, I think
I mean, you could cut the cost down a little bit if you take out the leather band.
they're not going to do a non-leather band.
329.
No, because we talked to them about the band, and the band is not really user replaceable. They don't
I
recommend
mean,
it.
I'll pay 500.
No, it is a standard dimension, but they do not recommend replacing it with a third party.
Okay.
That's their official line on that. So the way that it fits into the circular
Yeah.
main portion
Yeah.
is somehow sophisticated that they wouldn't want you to swap it.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why or how.
I think
They could only share so much with us.
349 is pretty solid.
That would be solid. But what was the leak?
399 would be on the
You know
high
what
end
else they
for
wouldn't
these.
tell? They wouldn't say what the material on the top was.
You know,
Because I thought that looks like it might be sapphire.
Oh,
It had a bevel, you know, like on a mirror.
Yeah, yeah,
It had
oh,
a
yeah.
bevel around the edge, and it was super clear.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But they wouldn't tell us. That was
I mean, I
another
would
thing
think
they
that
couldn't
any
mention.
glass like that looks like it's gonna get scratched to crap.
Of course.
Very soon.
It's glass.
No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if it's Gorilla Glass,
Yes.
it scratches.
Eventually.
But the Moto 360 is such a beautiful looking watch that it needs to come with that sapphire protection. That
I don't
would
know.
make sense.
Don't
No.
quote me on it.
that's an interesting look.
Yes.
It's exactly.
Could be.
It's just a speculation of mine. It could just be a higher quality glass. It could be an interim thing. Maybe the reason it's not ready is they can't produce those on scale. You know, I don't know.
I mean, that's actually a good point. I mean, why wasn't it ready? You know,
Exactly.
It's got to be something with production.
Something interesting.
I mean, if it is Sapphire, we've seen Sapphire push back a lot of rumors at least. So,
For
iPhone,
Apple,
yeah. When it comes to the iPhone, it was hard for them to produce the home button. They were in short supply because of that.
Yeah.
Let's be
Or
honest.
so they said.
Let's
I
be
mean,
honest though.
we don't-
Sapphire is going to be a big part of our lives in the future.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the ultimate surface. It goes back beyond smart devices in general.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
It's the obvious choice for a wrist.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
I think that concludes.
Yeah,
I think we've got everything covered there.
Sorry.
Oh, it was.
I didn't mean to overwhelm
That was
the
intense.
conversation. It's just I was the one who was at I/O.
That's
so
why
a
I
lot to
wanted
cover.
you here.
Yeah.
Because you were there, you've experienced it, you wore it
Right.
for a couple of days.
Right.
You could share it with them.
Cool. Love
So,
you guys.
Real quickly before
No
we
hate.
move on, you guys let us know. Moto 360, G Watch, or the Gear Live.
Gear
yeah.
Live.
The gear dead.
See, I mean, that's the issue. We're having trouble. The name.
Remember-
Always,
Name.
dude. Every video I've made on the Gear Live, I have felt strange saying it.
The gear live. What's that?
Or I guess you could pronounce it that way.
Well, anyways, we'll move on to. I think this is big, not necessarily super exciting for most of us, but Android One.
Yeah. That's exciting.
It's a big deal for
No, I
Google.
think it's
Yeah.
big for the world. It continues obviously like life into the Nexus line, and then more importantly, it's going to bring technology and people that normally couldn't get technology.
Yeah, it's like an extension of Nexus, really.
Yeah.
For
Like
everywhere
a lower
else.
end sort of Nexus deal. I mean,
Yeah.
like I just recently did a video on the Moto E, which may or may not be posted by the time this video goes live. That is an incredible phone for $120. Now, Android One is $100 less.
Well, I think that's the example that they use.
Okay.
Their target is under 100.
Under
Yeah.
100, so it's roughly the same.
79, 89, 99.
So the Moto E just completely blew my mind at how good of a phone that is for $120 off contract. So I can totally see them maybe just dropping the price just a little bit more and still be able to create fantastic phones and still have okay screens, still have decent performance, still have all the normal smartphone things like great battery life. $120 phone has better battery life than a $650 iPhone. Like, there are definitely some things that are really impressive.
I mean,
there to do
I'm
with
sure
that.
Motorola is making
Does that have to
profit
do with the
on
screen?
the They're making
It's got
profit.
that 2,000 milliampere battery, 2100, and it's like super low power, like dual core. So
Is the screen bright though?
Huh?
screen's not bad. I mean, it's like QHD, so it's like 960 by 540.
That's what it is.
But it's not a bad screen. I mean, it's not too far off from like an iPhone. Like it's slightly bigger, slightly lower resolution, but like
Not bad. Not
So
bad.
how much are we cutting down? How much are we cutting down phones to get
So,
to this point?
one of the things-
Do we care about a back camera? Are we getting rid of the rear cameras?
tight here.
So that's one of the things the Moto E did get rid of. They got rid of the front-facing camera, which was
Well, I mean, just on the Android One stuff. I mean,
well, I'm thinking like $120 already cutting the front-facing camera. They're cutting out the flash.
Yeah.
It records 480p video. I mean, you're making some sacrifices.
well, I mean,
4
to
gigs
get
of
under
storage.
that, do we have to cut the back camera and we have to cut the speakers?
No.
Do we
Okay,
just want
so
a device
to be
and a
honest-
screen and Android
But
One?
really, the focus of this is emerging markets anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can
the
actually
bigger
tell you something.
picture.
So on the flip side of this, I actually bought a $50 tablet. Okay, for $50, you get a front-facing camera, you get a back-facing camera, you get HDMI out, you get an SD card reader, you get a quad-core processor. For $50, this is a 7-inch tablet.
Yeah,
So
they're
keep
banking
in mind,
on
it's a horrible screen. There's a lot wrong with that. But at $50, you can fit a front and rear-facing camera and these other
how's
normal
the
tablet
experience?
phones. Oh, it's pretty bad, but it's $50. No, I'm serious. It's pretty bad, but it's $50.
I like how quickly you responded.
Is it like a
oh,
Colby,
it's pretty bad.
Colby or something?
Something along those
Yeah,
lines. I
yeah.
don't remember. But
Well, you just got it
I've seen
just to
it.
test it out or whatever.
I saw a $50 tablet that's had like Android KitKat, dual core processor.
You had it. You just had it
I was like,
tried.
yeah,
That is a
let's try
spec
that.
sheet, man. I mean, just
I can
KitKat
see the
and
title.
KitKat.
$50
I don't know
Android
if it's
tablet.
dual
Is
core,
it
quad
worth it?
core, not. But like a $50
Probably.
tablet.
I don't know, I guess
has
at
a bigger
50
screen and everything.
Yeah.
Has these things. So I think that a phone could break a lot of the stuff down without completely ruining the experience.
You know
Like,
what?
It's not like a $70 phone has to be like, well, you don't get cameras or you don't get speakers.
I mean,
Like,
I wonder how many $50 phones are released every year that we don't even hear about because we're not in those markets.
Yeah, the
There are
emphasis,
a fair few.
the emphasis
Yeah.
at the keynote, like right before he brought it up, he was talking about India specifically and the number of
Huge
underserviced
market.
customers,
Huge market.
where the amount of money, even if you're shaving $25, is massive. So
Yeah.
it's tough to have a conversation comparing it to the stuff we have access to.
Yeah, because
Because
we don't
it's
even
really
hear
the
about
question
that
of access to something or nothing.
stuff. Yeah.
480p?
Well, Android One,
0p. That's
I think we can all agree Android One is a good idea
It's
for
a
the
good
rest of the
thing.
world.
It's a good thing for
Yeah.
everyone.
it's good for everyone.
Especially for
Not just for the rest of the world, or for
No.
everyone. Yeah, I mean,
Everyone, absolutely, yeah.
but
Yeah, because them logging on,
Yeah.
maybe they become developers. We all have the
I can see
potential to
people
benefit
doing
through their
that.
development.
No. I think you guys are even going about it the wrong way. Here in the United States, do you know how many people still use flip phones? How many people would buy a $50?
We talked to a guy with a flip phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
not like just like
But
some,
a
like-
lot of the people here who are stuck on flip phones are not there because they can't afford a better phone.
No, it's
They're there because they
intentional.
don't want to.
Yeah,
It's
but if
too
they see an
much- too
awesome
much
phone for $80,
complication.
They
you'd
might.
be surprised how
They
many
might.
people would switch.
They might,
So
but,
I think it's
but
overall
most of those
wide
people are signing contracts anyways, and they can get phones for free.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Contracts are kind of, they're much less popular
Maybe.
than they used to be.
Maybe.
Trends are kind of moving away from
Maybe. I just think I run into a lot of people who are on old devices, and I say, what's going on here? They go, I like my flip phone. I don't want
that.
to
Well,
move
sure,
forward."
there's always going to be holdouts.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the nature of the deal.
I don't bump into as many people that are on a flip phone. They're just like, I can't afford
there are
it.
people that still use AOL dial-up.
Yeah,
It's a
but
thing.
it's not
It's a
because they
thing.
can't afford.
It's because they
something
just
else.
don't care. They
That's just
want
what
to.
they're on.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
used to it.
Yeah.
I think that wraps that up. We'll move on to, I know you're excited about Android Auto.
Yeah, I mean, Android, Google needs to be in our cars. You know, I mean, we've traveled around in my car.
Yeah.
And the interface on cars to navigate around
It's always awful.
is something I hate to do.
Always.
I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
Entering in a simple address takes forever. So on my phone, I can simply say, "Where's the nearest IHOP?" And we could drive there right away. Where
There's one
quick
right
thing,
over there,
though.
by the way.
One quick thing
we
though.
could walk there.
You guys have all seen the corny commercial for this experience, right? Right, with the dog and the tricks.
No.
If you haven't, go watch it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But that whole experience is awesome. regardless of how corny that commercial is, everything would float, right? You've seen it, right? With the dog tricks and stuff. It's a Google commercial. It's for Android in the car. The kid walks out of his house. He's like, he looks at his watch. He's like, oh, I have a dog. My dog has to be at a prize thing or something. And then he looks at his phone. He taps the map thing. He jumps in his car. It transfers to his car. His car takes him there. It's like all one fluid experience. And that's the big picture here.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's Google's endgame. Same thing with the Android One going back. They want to sell these devices to the emerging markets, so that way, I mean, even if Google is going to subsidize some of the cost here, they're going to make the money back on a yearly basis. I think I've heard estimates of like $12 a day per device. You know, so they're going to make the money back, and that's over years. You get them in their ecosystem, and with the Android in the car, right, or Google in the car, you have the ecosystem extending, and with the material design going back again, I mean, it's just pretty much a 360, you know, game plan.
I see the major value proposition in the car being the fact that the unit that you have in there, once it's in there, it's going to stay the same for the entire lifespan of that vehicle. It's not, well, it's not modular.
No, he's saying though,
it can be upgraded.
If you get it, like if you have some fancy system in there right now, it's going to be in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could potentially upgrade the software.
I'm just thinking like a Tesla, like you can download it all the time.
Yeah, but that's a very rare case.
The question,
like in my Jeep, the head unit's been updated. I don't know, a couple of times.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, it never happens. New POIs aren't being added. The point is that we need a modular solution because most of us know that even in the old days, could we have just glued our device into our dash, we would have been better off.
Absolutely.
You know,
I think it's possible. Samsung did it with the TVs, right? And we've seen with the TVs where you can switch out the processor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a weird.
Well, that's a weird implementation, but that's essentially what this is because you bring your device always changes, you're constantly upgrading it, so why have a permanent installation of something that's already modular in your pocket? You bring it in, you interface with the head unit that is capable of running Google in the car or Android in the car, whatever it's called. It's just a dumb display, which happens to be a touchscreen.
I think it was one of the major car manufacturers, I think it was Volvo maybe, they said that their car units will support CarPlay from iOS CarPlay from Apple or Android in the car. And so if you switch phones at some point, it's totally modular and operating system wise.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. And also, once again, just like on the wrist, having a universal language is going to benefit everyone because all of a sudden developers want to hop on board, you hit the mass market. Users don't need to constantly learn a new design language. You rent a car, guess what? Booyah, the system's the same, right? You share a car with somebody else, same thing. Again, this idea of having to relearn every single interface whenever you're in a different brand's vehicle, super low tech.
Well, let me propose the other side of that though. Does that make nothing unique anymore?
No.
Everything's all the same.
No, look at computers. I mean, putting aside Macs,
or is everything already all the same?
Nah, think about this, right? So if you look at computers, putting aside Macs, which, I mean, there are a lot of Macs, but like for the most part, every computer uses Windows. Does that mean that all these computers are all the exact same and awful?
The thing is that it doesn't really work that way with software.
Yeah, it's not.
Software is not something to be played with. Software is a tool to get a job done.
Oh yeah.
So, again, this is my huge criticism of Samsung just bolting things on, taking a beautiful design and overhauling it in 3 weeks or whatever. Obviously, that's an exaggeration. But essentially just saying, yeah, we want to get creative with features. Well, it's not that simple because every time you ask the end user to overcome, to learn something new, their experience is altered. So the goal is to allow them to achieve their end game through the most limited number of inputs possible. And the only way to achieve that is through hitting critical mass. The reason Android got good is because Android got everywhere.
Yeah. Samsung helped them get it everywhere. Ironically,
They did. They did.
That's funny because
It
they
is funny.
spread it
They
and then
need each other.
and then they destroyed it.
Don't get me wrong. They need no. Don't get me wrong. They need each other.
Not
It-
destroyed it, but
Android's play, Google's
They
play,
butchered it.
Google's
Yeah.
play up until this point is to get Android in as many pockets as possible at all costs.
Yeah.
That's why they make they work with
Skinny,
the carriers.
yeah.
They bought Motorola?
They bought Motorola. I mean,
And then they sold Motorola.
any way possible. Tablets, glass, phones, Nest, whatever it means.
Dropcam.
Just bought Dropcam.
Get Google in your life any way possible. Now that brings up another discussion about picking teams.
Yeah.
We're at a critical point right now where we're going to have multiple devices that are connected to one ecosystem or the other, whether it happens to be Android or iOS. And we need to decide where we're going to invest.
The difference is though, the Google ecosystem actually exists on iOS. You know, I mean, I can get
Parts of it.
Hangouts.
Parts of it.
Parts of it. So
A good
that's
chunk.
the difference. Where
Yeah.
for me, I'm actually invested in the Google ecosystem.
Well, we're all invested.
Yeah, but it
You're-
doesn't
we're,
matter,
we're,
like-
we're going to push this out on YouTube.
Yeah, sure. So to me, it doesn't matter if I switch to iOS or Android because I have what I need. I have my Gmail.
Right.
I have my Hangouts
Right.
if I use it.
Okay, so let me position this question to you. All of a sudden, that's not available on iOS.
It becomes very difficult.
I leave iOS immediately.
It's gonna
All of us
make the
do. All of us
resistance
do. Yeah.
so much.
Oh, yeah.
I
All
mean,
of us do. So
I need my Gmail.
that switch is going to be flipped. That switch will be flipped.
I don't know.
Of course it will.
It could come to that point.
They are constantly monitoring those ratios. They're an ad company. As soon as those impression
but they can
figures
sell
overlap,
They sell ads on iOS.
I know. That's what I'm
I'd be
saying.
surprised if iOS is more profitable.
Of course it is, but what I'm saying is that they're monitoring that ratio. Once Android catches up, they no longer need it. Android is definitely catching up. You can look at market share
Well,
figures.
sure, but I don't see why they would have to be tied to Android. Like, why does Google care whether it's iOS or Android? Sure, they would prefer you to use Android, but it gets you to the same spot.
No. Right now
still
it
using the
does.
same
Right
services.
now it does. But ultimately, capitalizing on the largest portion of that transaction comes through device sales. That's why Apple makes money. So if it's about realizing the maximum amount of the profitability, and for Apple right now, it lies in hardware.
Sure,
Right?
absolutely.
But there's no reason why at some point Android can't capture that value. It's just a question of when that value becomes larger than the ad value that is represented by people wanting to buy those devices currently.
Okay.
It's the same amount on the exchange, you know what I mean? It's still $600 out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Apple
it's a different
makes
way of looking at it.
It is. It's totally different way of looking at it. But I guarantee there's some engineer somewhere doing that ratio the same way they A/B test all that craziness on this
Yeah.
platform you're watching us on right now. Whether or not you saw this video in your subscription feed or not,
It may or may not have been there.
it may or may not have. You may have had to come looking for this because of said
They saw it
platform.
on Vimeo. That's how
Yeah.
weird it got.
Oh, easy. Don't take it too far.
It's the same
Not a
way.
sponsor.
You know what it's like? It's like Twitter. In the early days, they needed Instagram, so Instagram was allowed.
Yeah.
Then as
Now they-
soon as they didn't need them anymore, see you later.
That
As soon
was-
as they got bought by Facebook,
Pretty much, yeah.
game over.
Yeah. Yep.
These companies will use one another for as long as necessary.
Well, that was a long-winded discussion
So,
about Android
talking
and
about
the car.
cars,
Auto.
Androids,
Android
yeah.
Auto, yeah.
Sorry, I apologize once again.
Deep.
Mother.
It's deep. I think we're gonna close up with material design. Real quick, gonna give a shout out to Squarespace. You're a big fan.
Squarespace is awesome. I use Squarespace for my website. Hands down, the easiest way to get up and running on the web right now. One of the coolest features, the store feature. It's got to be the easiest way to build a store and start making money online.
Yeah.
You can add items, products in minutes, essentially. You could be selling things. You set up Stripe on there. You can accept credit cards. It's actually a beautiful interface. If you've ever
It's
sold
really nice.
anything through
It's
your
really
website,
nice,
I
yeah.
have. I go through the order structure, click a few buttons. All of a sudden, that person gets a notification that their item has shipped. I see that the payment's been made. It's amazing. In the old days, setting up a store
Yeah, pain in the ass.
Huge.
was a huge issue. So if you have any kind of inkling to get involved in e-commerce, this is the best place to experiment, and you can try it for free.
Squarespace.com/TLD.
There you go.
Link is below.
It's a smart move. Trust me. I'm a user.
Boxtherapy.com.
I didn't get paid a cent to say that.
I'll buy you dinner.
That's the truth. Maybe I'll get a steak out of
He's
it.
buying a mistake.
So we are closing up with material design, and I feel it's not, because you kind of brought up the point where it was kind of Android L, but it's just, to me it's more the idea of unifying the experience across the phone, the tablet, the TV.
I mean, Google's trying to become every part of your life, and they want you to be familiar. I mean, that's why. I mean, look at, again, going back to TouchWiz. That's why they don't want to change the way they look.
Man, we are so mean to TouchWiz.
I'm sorry, TouchWiz.
I mean, no, I mean, but there is a familiarity there. You know, when you pick up a Samsung phone, you know it's a Samsung
Because there's so many of them out
and,
there.
And Google wants the same thing, but it wants it across all. It wants it on our watch, on our face, in our house. I mean, everything and anything and everything is gonna be material design.
But the material design is like it's a design concept. Like they're using the shadow to mimic different layers and heights and depths and buttons and.
They put a lot into it.
Yeah.
A lot of thought goes into this design.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like a fancy word for saying like shadows and.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean,
I know it is a little more than just shadows.
And they test everything out.
And how has it been though?
I think like
it's. I mean, the attention to detail is really something that stood out to me.
I love it.
Something I haven't seen on Android before. I mean, it's the biggest overhaul
looks nice.
since Ice Cream Sandwich, and
it does.
The attention to detail. I mean, just the little animations. You toggle on the auto rotation, and it makes a little spinning annotation, and you go into the settings and you swipe up, and it has a nice little wave animation. I mean, it just.
I've always felt like
really
the lack of those is what made a lot of variants of Android feel very generic when you used it. Because it didn't have those little things like that, like you were talking about, the little things.
So that's one of the things that I've always appreciated about Apple. I mean, don't get me wrong, I use iOS, I use Android, I like a lot of what Android does, but something Apple's always done well is get those little things right.
Details.
The little details, like, so like one little like spinning animation is not going to be the end of the world. When you add that kind of stuff up, it's a nice smooth 60 frames per second, all these different things, they make a huge difference to the interface. When you kind of add them all up, it's like, oh, you know what? This is a really nice little thing to use. I like this. It's not like, oh, it just works.
The problem is though, is that because we use them both regularly, if you're so used to one platform and that's all you use, and then you try something out for a day or for an hour, like you're not going to get to experience it. And I think that's one of the things that I've always had a problem with in terms of like fanboys and bashing. It's like you see iOS users bash Android and they've never really used it or gave it a chance. Or same thing.
A lot.
Like the Android people bashing iOS, like you never got to appreciate.
Some people legitimately made the switch though.
Yeah, some people.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But
some people have. This still doesn't make it a productive thing to be doing.
Like, I'm not gonna go sit there and walk to freaking John Doe on the street and yell at him for using an iPhone.
No, it's listen. People feel powerful behind their screens. This is why we addressed it with Fanboy Rap.
We did.
Yeah, link below.
One thing I want to say.
We solved this issue.
One thing I want to say
Fanboys
about L and the new software. During the demo, the entire demonstration was done with the Nexus 5, an old device.
Well,
And it ran really good.
relative to flagship.
It's what is it? It's
There's not a
year.
big difference between a Nexus 5 and a brand
Well,
new flagship.
anyway, it's not top of the line.
Oh, there's a
It's not top of the line.
No, there's not, dude.
Nobody would call it a top of the line phone.
No, it's sub. I mean,
It's mid-range.
I would say it's
It's
very
mid-range.
It didn't even retail at a top
It's
of the
not
line
top of
price.
the
I
line.
would say it's
It's
very
mid-range.
close to the top of the line still.
Okay, well, anyways, regardless, new software actually running smoother than old software.
Fantastic.
Regardless, even if you want to say that the hardware is the best on the market, which I disagree, it's not the best hardware on the market. But even if you wanted to say that, to introduce a new piece of software that is better than the previous piece of software at speed and smoothness, this is where Apple has even had trouble.
Yeah.
Where
iPhone 4,
go ahead and put
4S.
new software from Apple on old devices and see what happens.
terrible.
Yeah, so to be able to innovate from a feature set perspective, from a design language perspective, but to maintain the speed of the user interface, that's the complete package.
Because they switched to art.
well, yeah. I mean,
More than that,
From
but
the Dalvik to art, and that new runtime allows things to be pre-compiled.
Right.
And it just works so much better, so much more efficient.
I love
and
that
it helps,
idea.
It's gonna theoretically it helps battery life, and I think that's something we'll
I
definitely.
mean, I would
see.
like to see. I don't think the SDKs will work on it, but the preview will work on it. But on like a Nexus 4, how's it going to run on there?
Yeah,
you know? That's going to be a true test.
If they bring it to the
Definitely.
Nexus.
If they do, I think they will.
And real quickly,
usually 2
for
years.
those
They
who
might
aren't
be on the
familiar
edge.
with art, he's got a really good video kind of showing the benefits of that. So before that kind of reaches mainstream, You guys should definitely check that out if you don't
The
know.
phone buff.
Yeah.
That's why he gets the name, because he gets in there.
But don't just check it out. Click the subscribe button.
Yeah.
Show him some love long term.
Do
Do it for your man, Lou.
He's got a hip hop beat for an intro, so.
Yeah, he does.
I love it. Yeah.
He does.
You gotta hear the beat. You know.
So material,
drop the
I think we can all agree material design.
It's a
Huge
win.
win.
Yeah,
Huge
dude,
win.
It's a go.
awesome. So beautiful.
To
a
close
go.
this up, I don't want to get controversial, but I kind of want to get your guys' take on the whole iOS copied Android or Android copied iOS.
You don't want to be controversial though, right?
Lord.
No, I just mean
What are
like,
these?
Haven't
No,
I
I
ranted? Haven't there been enough rants
No, I
tonight?
didn't. I want to put it in like a positive perspective of that. Like, I don't really mind seeing certain things taken
I like
from
both.
here. Like, it's
I need both in my life.
Yeah.
How can you take that specific thing and make it better? Like, it's competition for me.
Yeah, I had
you know
a
what?
rant exactly on this. Like being a fan of technology in general and not being a fan of brands. Brands don't care about you. Brands want your money. If you want the best as a consumer, then you want competition.
Yeah.
You want different people trying to get that money out of your pocket.
What was that, like a Xbox PS4 rant?
No, it was a rant about Android and iOS specifically.
The only people that should care about who's copying who are the companies themselves.
Exactly.
We as consumers should be happy.
That's a win. It's
Every
a
single
win.
time I see someone pull
Yeah,
out
we
a good
win.
feature, I'm like, man, I wish everyone else would just steal this already.
That's it.
This is great.
Like HTC and the boom sound. Like, I wish
Everyone should steal that.
Copy it. Yeah.
Everyone should steal that. I wish
But
that
they're-
Unfortunately,
I wish
patents and stuff come into play.
I wish that iOS would steal the Windows 8.
See,
where you can, on tablets,
see,
you can
the
put
issue,
multiple apps on
the
the
issue
screen.
that
That's
arises
nice.
is, of course, there are people that work at these companies that create these things,
Yeah.
and if you are an artist, and I want to call it that because that's what it is. You look at the new OS on Android, and it's beautiful, right? So you spend a lot of time on this stuff, and when you come up with an original idea. See, everybody here knows it because we're all content creators.
Yeah.
We're all artists. This guy could go on and on about it on the end over there. He pays a lot of attention to it. I try not to because it's really a negative thing, but ultimately people take ideas. That's just the nature of human existence. People see something done better and want to do it themselves. And ultimately the best way to go from 0 to 60 is just to copy. So I can see it from both perspectives, but ultimately you guys are all right that the consumers benefit.
Yeah.
It's not, the fight is not really ours to have.
Yeah.
From a moralistic standpoint, maybe we can feel a certain way about it, but to get out and hammer other individuals who are saying the opposite thing or supporting the opposite brand is a destructive activity. It's not a productive one.
Yeah, I just think like, because there was, my timeline was filled with like, as soon as iOS 8 was announced, it's like Android. It was kind of quiet though with L. I mean, there are certain things like the new Chrome tabs.
Yeah.
That looks like Safari. And to me,
I mean,
it's just how
you
can
know.
you take it and make it better? I don't look at it like,
You know what? That's something they did. Do not disturb, right? So that came on iOS first, and we've seen it in the skins like TouchWiz and Sense. But on Android L, it actually shows up in the when you press the volume rocker down.
Yeah.
You could set the do not disturb for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours,
Yeah.
instead of having to dig deep into the settings and flick it on or off. And that's something to me that's really, really useful. I want to go watch a movie.
Yeah.
I hit my volume rocker right there. I can press it and say 3 hours. That way, when I come out of the movie, I don't have to worry about forgetting to turn my phone back on, so I don't miss a call or a text.
Yeah.
And that's making something better. And I don't mind that, you know. And that's what they should do.
It's a win.
It's a win.
It's gonna,
It's a
yeah.
win.
There's no way to stop it.
a go.
It's gonna continue
Yeah.
to happen.
Let's
You're not
go.
gonna curb it with your comment. All right. So just enjoy the development as a whole.
well, this turned into
Yeah.
quite the discussion. I know it went a little longer than
I wonder how long it actually is.
traditional video. We'll find out when it's cut up. But
We cuts all of your talking
Well,
out.
yeah.
I'm leaving it all in.
How dare you?
It's all in.
It's
Okay.
all in.
So hopefully
I'm
you
gonna hold
guys-
you to that.
This
No, it's
is
in.
this is
By the time-
I'm not sure I even want it all to be in. You
I
know?
want it in.
All right.
We're all in.
it's all in.
I feel like that's a. What saying is that?
What?
Like in poker.
What's all in? No, there's a marketing all in. I
don't
can't
know.
think of it now. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed a little bit longer of a format. Thanks for these guys for coming out here. We're actually kind of at VidCon.
Yeah,
Kinda
that,
good con.
that was like totally like 3 hours ago. Don't worry
That's
about it.
your thing. But,
That was a long time ago. I forgot
again,
all
we got
about
Dom, Mac Mixing, link below, the Austin Evans,
The Austin
upgraded,
it. Upgraded.
the Unbox Therapy, and the Phone Buff.
And me, John, TLD.
That's fine. So I got links to all of them. I'm sure most of you guys are subscribed. If not, make sure to definitely check them out. Subscribe. Because I have no regrets or saying I don't think you guys will be disappointed if you guys head over to their channels.
And leave a thumbs up, and you get big high fives to your face.
Oh my god.
You have fun with that.
Only if you're feeling awesome, leave it though.
Yeah. Oh, there, yeah.
Otherwise, skip it. Skip it.
What's your thumbs up deal? What do they get for giving the thumbs up?
Your viewers.
A virtual high five.
No, he didn't. He's sleeping over here.
Are you sleeping?
Are you paying attention? He's
Man,
like over there. Look
I
at
haven't ate in a long time. I've been talking about pancakes and French toast.
virtual high five to your
And we're
face.
having a 4-hour video.
And cut.